Claude Nicolas Ledoux was born on March 27, 1736 in Dormans, a town on the edge of the Marne near Épinay. He entered the prestigious College of Beauvais in Paris at the age of 13 and left it in February 1753.
He studied architecture under the guidance of Jacques-François Blondel, then undertook an apprenticeship in the architectural practice of Pierre Contant d'Ivry, while also establishing links with that of Jean-Michel Chevautit. As these latter two were recognized masters, they were likely to provide him with valuable connections among their wealthy clientele.
It is through the intermediary of the architect Louis-François Trouard, returned from Rome in 1757, that Ledoux discovers the ancient architecture. Notably the temples of Paestum, which will exert a great influence on its aesthetics, and the work of Palladio.
Thus he began his work by designing the interior of an apartment for Baron Crozat de Thiers in his hotel on Place Vendôme. Then, in 1763, for the Marquis Anne-Pierre de Montesquieu-Fezensac, he rebuilt the chateau at the top of a hill within his vast estate of Maupertuis, in the Brie region. He went on to create water features supplied by an aqueduct, an orangery, a pheasantry, and extensive outbuildings.
Below are a few representations of a very small part of Ledoux's body of work, including the Hôtel Particulier de Holwell in Paris.
Regarding the neoclassical Uzes Hotel, Ledoux modernized it at the request of its owner, Duke François-Emmanuel de Croissel. The transformation involved the addition of numerous columns to the facades. The entrance portal was framed by two Doric columns adorned with trophies and martial emblems.
The Château de Benouville is today among Ledoux's best preserved works. Remarkably modern for its time, its architecture makes it one of the major monuments of the late 18th century.
The construction of the pavilion was initiated on the orders of Madame du Barry, the last favorite of King Louis XV, in order to accommodate numerous reception rooms.
The Royal Saltworks of Arc at Senan unquestionably represent the culminating point of Ledoux's work. We shall describe them in greater detail shortly.
The salt granary remains the symbol of a tax universally detested in the Middle Ages and under the Ancien Régime, the gabelle, or salt tax. It was indeed at this site that the collected salt was stored.
The architecture of Ledoux's theatre is revolutionary. Externally, it is inspired by the simple forms of classical architecture, with a column portico. Internally, it is an open space devoid of the partition boxes typical of the Italian-style theatre, ensuring improved visibility. For the same reason, Ledoux placed the orchestra in a pit in front of the stage.
The Wall of the Farmers General was one of the former enclosures of Paris. Its purpose was to enable the Ferme Générale to levy, at points of entry, a tax on goods entering the city. The wall was to include 60 toll barriers serving as tax collection offices. It enclosed approximately the area of what are now the first 11 arrondissements.
Based on the plans drawn up by Claude Nicolas Ledoux, Charles-François de Guiselin, first Councillor General of the Canton of Guines, had the chateau built on the site of a former seigneurial residence.
Let us return to Ledoux's Royal Saltworks. It was regarded as his masterpiece and was intended to become an annex of the existing saltworks at Solines, which were considered insufficiently productive.
The choice of this location was dictated by the presence of the vast forest of Chaux and by the proximity of brine sources such as those at Solines. The forest of Chaux is the second largest forest in France.
Claude Nicolas Ledoux, an idealist, or a visionary, of the Age of Enlightenment, proposed a project that was highly ambitious and innovative for its time. He conceived an industrial, modern workers' town, based on a very distinctive design and conceptual approach.
Ledoux formalized his innovative concepts of urban planning and architecture, intended to improve society through an ideal city rich in symbolism and meaning. This idea would later be taken up 80 years afterwards by Jean-Baptiste André Gaudin in the creation of his Familisterie at Guise.
At the heart of a 13-hectare park, the Royal Saltworks comprise 11 buildings, 30 gardens, and 6 permanent exhibitions.
The entrance to the Saltworks stands on the exact axis of the new road laid out in a straight line from the Lou Bridge and perpendicular to the route linking Arc and Senans. This monumental gateway, remarkable for an industrial site, constituted the sole access to the manufactory for the 250 craftsmen and workers who made up its workforce. The projecting front of the entrance pavilion is formed by a portico of 8 Doric columns and a porch conceived as an imitation grotto emerging from the earth, according to Ledoux. The architect's boldness lay in combining a natural element with an industrial building.
At the end of the main avenue stands the sumptuous director's house, with a coach house and stables to the rear. Like all members of the staff, the director lived on site. His residence is positioned at the center of the semicircle, enabling him to oversee the entire complex through the oculus set into the pediment.
His house is endowed with a peristyle, whose 6 Doric columns immediately set it apart from the other buildings through the alternation of cylindrical and cubic stone blocks, creating a subtle interplay of light and shadow.
On either side of the director's building stand the 2 long production workshops, known as the East and West boiling houses. Each contained 4 enormous furnaces used to heat the brine supplied from the graduation building and its associated basin.
The brine supply was conveyed via a brine pipeline specially constructed for the purpose. It was made up of multiple sections of firwood and extended over 21 kilometers between Solines and the graduation building located at Chaux.
Within the enclosure and around the boiling houses are arranged the 2 pavilions for clerks responsible for administration and taxation. There are also 2 workers' housing blocks, each containing 6 rooms accommodating 4 people, with collective garden plots to the rear. In addition, there are 2 buildings for the farriery and the cooperage, intended for the manufacture of barrels used in the transport and storage of salt. Finally, a single gatehouse served to control entries and exits, supervised by guards.